Okay, cool. Let me set the scene, right? So it's 2020, COVID-19, global pandemic, everyone's working from home, people are scared, businesses are closing, and what did I decide to do? Start a business. Of course I did. And why? Why did I do it now? Well, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time. And yeah, it just felt like now is that time. So if you or somebody you know have been thinking about something, talking about it, dreaming about it, but haven't yet done it, this video is for you. Welcome to Reasons to Behold. For those of you who don't know, we make videos, podcasts, and blogs to help you live God's way in all areas of your life. My name is Tolu, and I'm one of the podcast hosts, so this is probably the first time you're going to be seeing my face and not just hearing my voice. I'm here today to talk to you about my journey of starting a business in the global pandemic that is COVID-19. It's been quite a journey, so I'm really looking forward to just sharing that with you. And I'm really hoping that, for those of you who have dreams, have ideas, and, have been a bit fearful or you don't quite know where to start, this video is for you to really unpack some of my journey, how I've overcame some of that for me, and really just encourage you to just go do what you feel like God has put on your heart to do. So a little bit of context, the business that I started is an apparel company called Dunamis Clothing, and dunamis is the word in the Bible when it talks about power. So the clothing is all about empowering people to witness and to share their faith, to share Christ in their everyday lives. I had the idea probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and to be honest, I'd just been sitting on it really. I'd always think about it, start having ideas and, I could do this, I could do that, but I never really did anything about it. And to be honest, when I look back, when I think about why didn't I do anything about it, there's always that little thing of, okay, how do I get started? What are the first things that I need to do? I know nothing about fashion, like nothing. I have some good friends who throughout my life, I will not be shouting people out because they'll be gloating, but they throughout my life have helped me with my fashion and that kind of stuff. But actually, I know nothing about fabrics. I know nothing about designs. I know nothing about social media. I'm like a recluse in that area. But that was all stopping me, and those were all excuses for me to not do this. And when you look back, it's only when you think about it that you realize that, okay, actually these were elements of fear that I had. And I just felt like when the pandemic started and I had so much more time at home, and I eat out like 3-4 times a week on a regular basis. So when the pandemic happened, I couldn't do that. So I had all this extra money that started to build up. And it was just kind of like all of the excuses that you would have had, I don't have time, I don't have the money, I don't know what I'm doing. All of that goes out the window, right? Because now you're just at home, just chilling, you've got nothing else to do. So I really started to think, okay, let me try and take this opportunity to actually do something with it. And I think that is one of the key things, is recognizing opportunities. Because sometimes when everything looks like it's blowing up and going wrong, in all of that, there are so many opportunities. And I really just believe that as Christians, we should also be looking for the best in every situation. So it says in Romans 8:28 that God will turn all things together for our good. And so even when bad things are happening, we should be asking God, we should be thinking, we should be praying, God, where's the good in this situation? What is it that you want to use this for and turn it around for my good? So I just felt like in that time that, okay, there's an opportunity here to make good use of the time that I've got available, make good use of the resources that I have available, and just get started. And I think there's a huge amount of power in taking that first step. And what I really found interesting is, as I was going through, the motions of starting it, as I was talking to people about it and sharing the vision, actually people were getting excited and people saying, oh, I know this that could help you. I know this that could help you. People were bringing things in. So I remember I was talking to one of my friends about it and saying, I didn't even know where to get a printer from. And he just sent me like 5 links of printers and was like, go ahead with these. And that was one of the ones that I used for my first time. So part of it is recognize the opportunity, but then just start moving, start doing things. It's not going to be pretty, to be honest. It's really not. And that's actually okay, because it's just like when you watch a child starting to walk, it's not pretty, they're going to fall over. But actually, as you start taking steps, as you start, on that path, then actually God will start to put things there for you. It says the steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord, and he delights in their way. And I've just seen so much of that ordering. As I'm making the steps, stuff is coming into place, but I've also really felt that delight, because for me it's like going on that journey with God, because I know that I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So for me, it's like all the time I'm like, God, what's going on? Like, how are we going to do this? And I can just feel that delight in that God is the one that put this in my heart. He's the one that gave me this idea. And now seeing me walk it out and seeing me actually do it, he delights in that, because it says without faith it's impossible to please God. So when you have an idea or a vision or a dream that you feel that God has given you, when you start to step out, you're stepping out in faith, and that really pleases God, because it's like, I've given this to him, what's he going to do? And now he's doing it, so no matter how it looks, if you're stepping out in that, God is pleased with what you're doing. So you're probably thinking, a lot of people say just start, right? That's what everyone says. Yeah, just start. But what does that actually mean? So let's get real practical, and I'll tell you some of the things that I did when I was starting that maybe you can think about doing too. So for me, part of it was just writing stuff down. Like, what is my brand going to be called? What do I want it to do? What do I want the brand to mean to me? Or the idea, the vision. What is it? So the Bible talks about write the vision and make it plain. And what you'll find is that as you write it down and you start to talk about it and flesh it out, everything starts to fall into place, and you start to understand what are the different moving parts that you need to get in place. So writing it down is a great place to start. Just the basics, even if it's just a big one-word thing that you write down. Just start, and what you'll find is that as you start to do it, it will really start to flow, and actually what's on the inside of you will really start to come out and start to come to life. And it also is really exciting, to be very honest. As you start to write this down, excitement will build, and don't be afraid to think big. So I'm a huge believer in, I think, how big can this go? And that's where I build back from. So I think, okay, if I want to be a global brand, how do I build that? What does that need to look like? How does that need to feel? Because then that stops you from kind of pigeonholing yourself into small thinking from the beginning. So thinking really big about it and thinking, okay, in my wildest dreams, how would I see this looking? And how do I start to get to that place? The next thing that I would do is do some research. So for me, there was a brand called Art of Homage who were really inspirational for me. So they started a few years ago with t-shirts, hoodies, all that kind of stuff. And what I did is I just looked them up. I looked at their Instagram, I looked at their website, their Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. And I started to understand, okay, this is a brand that I really admire and I aspire to be like. How do they do what they do? What kind of language do they use? And what kind of systems do they use? You can find there's so much power in the internet to find exactly what it is, because the likelihood is that somebody's done something that you want to do, or they've done something similar. So just have a research and start to understand, what do other people who do this look like? Another thing I would say is don't be afraid to spend a bit of money. So for me, part of it was I ordered some samples. I got some things that I could physically touch. And sometimes it's a scary thought, especially in a pandemic, like where people are it's a risky thing to do, but don't be afraid of risk. I'm not saying be wild and spend thousands of pounds on whatever it is, but try and find little ways that you can kind of invest in your dream, because it's an investment. So for me, what I did is I ordered a bunch of stuff, but I ordered it all in my size, because then I know that, okay, even if I can't sell it, actually I will wear it myself. And it's amazing, even in wearing it, it's like free advertising, right? So this is one of my t-shirts. But if I hadn't spent the money, if I just kept it as, these are the mock-ups of my t-shirts, then actually when I'm out in my day-to-day life, and there have been so many people who have come up to me and said, oh, what's that? And when I say, oh, it's mine, they're like, wow, so make that investment to be able to kind of physically and tangibly see your brand and interact with whatever it is that you're trying to build. Because that encourages you. Every time I see one of my things, I know that I can't just stop. But if it's just something on a screen, it's a bit easier to kind of be discouraged and stop what you're doing. So something else that I've really been trying to learn is about failing fast. There is going to be stuff that you're going to try and it's going to suck. It's going to fail. But that's actually really okay, because when you look at people who have made it, they all had failures, and really big failures. Some of them nearly lost everything. Some of them did lose everything because they were trying something and it failed. And we're kind of conditioned to try and get things right the first time, every time, but that's not reality. There are going to be things that you do that are going to fail, and what I would say to you is just go into that situation knowing that, okay, this could fail, and if it fails, that's actually okay. We say at work, we want people to fail fast, so sometimes what we do is we procrastinate, and then we do it, and then it fails. So we've spent 6 months procrastinating, and then it fails. And then it feels like we've spent 6 months trying to do something, and then it didn't work. But if actually you'd spent a month trying to figure out what to do, doing it, and then it failed, you've only lost a month. So I think that's another thing, is procrastination is the devil himself. It's just so bad. Days turn to weeks, weeks turns to months, and you haven't done anything. And actually, if you just started moving, that day, you would have actually started rolling. So what I really tried to do is just do a little bit every day. Spend half an hour every day, maybe an hour every day. There were some days where I just stayed up till like 2 a.m. just because you get into a flow. But the hardest thing is starting that half an hour every day. But I found that if I can do that, there'll be days where that half an hour turns to an hour, turns to 2 hours, turns to however many hours. But that consistency is so key. So consistency for me was such a huge part of actually being able to get something started. And yeah, procrastination is the devil. Just get rid of the procrastination. Sometimes we want things to be perfect, but I try to adopt a motto of do it, fix it. So do it, test it, fix it. If you think about an iPhone, for example, we didn't start with an iPhone 12. We started with an iPhone 3 or whatever it was, or 2. Probably 1, right? We started probably with just the iPhone, right? And then they iterated it and they improved it and they make it better each and every time. So it's the same thing. I think sometimes because we're so used to seeing the finished article, we think that we have to come out with the finished article right from the beginning, but nobody's expecting that, right? So just start with where you're at and test things out as early as you can. Get feedback from your friends and family as early as you can, and don't take feedback personally in a bad way. Right? Welcome negative or constructive, however you want to frame it. Welcome feedback and understand that actually that's what's going to make you better. Because when you've poured out your time into something, it's almost like your baby. And if someone tells you your baby's ugly, you're not going to be happy, right? But just know that the feedback is good for you, and most people are going to be giving you that feedback from a good place. And even if it's a troll online, there's going to be elements of truth in their feedback. So it's like, take the good and leave the hate and the bad alone, but try and find the truth in that feedback that they're giving you, because it's always going to make you better. It's always going to make you stronger. So seek out feedback, especially constructive feedback. Really seek that out. So even if you don't listen to anything that I've said for the past, I don't know how long it's been, the one thing I would say to you is that if you are afraid to do it anyway. Because as Christians, fear is not something that is conducive to the life that we want to live, or the life that we've been called to live. So in the Bible, they say there's 365 times that God says do not fear, and that's like one for every day, right? So our everyday life should not be fear-filled. We should be living lives of faith. And this isn't if you're not doing it, you're a bad Christian. No, it's understanding that you have been created and called to live a higher life. So when the devil is trying to keep you in bondage through fear, that is a life contrary to what God wants for you. So I just really encourage you that if you feel afraid, take a step anyway, because that is where God meets you. As you take steps towards him, it says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. So as you take steps towards that vision or that dream that you feel God has given you, God meets you on the way and he pushes, he helps you, he encourages you. So for me, it's just remember that as Christians, or even as just people, right, is that no one makes great decisions out of fear. So if you're feeling the fear, understand it, but know that actually this is something that will probably be good for me to do, because good things come on the other side of that. So I would just say, if you feel afraid, find a way to take some steps and do it anyway. Thank you guys so much for listening. We would love to hear what you thought. So yeah, comments underneath, like, subscribe, share. Get at us if there's stuff you agreed with. Still want to hear it. Remember, feedback is good, even if it's negative. So yeah, get at us. We want to hear from you. So we'll see you in the next video.